Hello. Today we're going to talk about something a little slightly different. It's more like the psychology of the markets and how they work. And I brought this up because a lot of people think the Dow Jones will hit all time new highs because of the earnings season, and it's in a good position and doesn't really have that much far to go. If we have a good earnings season, I believe 100% that we will hit all time highs. There's no for a reason, as long as we have a good earnings season and better than if we have especially a better than expected one. I think expectations are kind of low. I mean, it hasn't ran up that much if you really think about it because it came down so hard in the fourth quarter of last year. So essentially, for really no reason. I mean, some of the stocks was justifiable, but a lot of the markets they're not really a whole much. But I'm going to teach you the basically how really financial markets work, basically the psychology of them, how the reason they go up, kind of slow, then they come down real hard, and basically there's if you picture it, let's say you have zero money and you get greedy first. So essentially that's how it all started. Essentially that's if a person has $0, they want more. So it's because they don't have anything. And they really don't have really any fear because they have nothing to lose. If you have $0, you're not really scared to lose any money. You might be scared for other reasons. You don't want to do something because you might fail at it, and you might be scared of that. But you're really not going to be, you know, afraid to lose $5 if you have no money anyway. You wouldn't lose much. So essentially, that's why greed usually plays a bigger role in the start, and that's why people they go out and try to make money, and they go if they're successful, they go get more money and more money and more money, and they could just keep going. But there it comes a point when you have a lot of money or whatever that value might be or whatever. I mean, it varies from a different person. I mean, $1 million may not seem like a lot to a lot of people. 100,000 may seem like a lot, or $10,000 might seem like a lot. Depends where you look at it and what you really want from your life. But that's really not the point that I'm trying to get at. Basically, what happens is when people make some money or what they say is a lot of money for them, um, is what happens is they get very scared and very fearful of the market. Let's say it's like a stock, and let's say you put a stock and you may have $1,000. You put it in the stock and it doubles. So essentially, a lot of people get real scared when a stock does that, and it's almost the dumbest thing. We do a lot of dumb things. Well, some people do a lot of dumb things in the stock market that cost them a lot of money. Because essentially, there's really a stock that doubles. There's a lot of reasons other than the stock market just ran up a lot. Maybe the stock was undervalued anyway, and it beat expectations really well, and the valuation was justifiable. And that's what you have to understand. You always have to sit back, and when you feel greedy and you feel fearful, is it justifiable? Because you can't, a lot of people say, "Well, I'm not going to feel any emotions." Well, that's almost impossible. You have to understand how it works. So essentially, is it justifiable? So essentially, is your fear or your greed is justifiable? If it is, then go for it. It's just like I'd be pretty scared if I fell out of a building. That'd be pretty justifiable. If I'm falling from a building. But if I was, let's say I was falling 2 feet into a pool or something. Jumping into a pool, I probably wouldn't. I would still be falling. And if you close your eyes, it'd probably be a lot scarier because you don't really know. So essentially, that'd be basically how it is. It's justifiable. You probably be just as scared, but is it justifiable? And that's what happens, and that's why the market and fear is such a strong emotion that we have, and a lot is fear is almost 3 times stronger than receiving. and you can easily do this and see it really around our world, in our lives and every day. So let's say I could make up a situation to try to explain why it's so strong. Let's say you have a friend A and friend B. Friend A gives friend B $20, and let's say friend B had $10, so now he has 30. Okay, and then he goes maybe a day and he has $30 and he's happy. But let's say friend A takes back that $20. So essentially, friend B has $10. He started where he was. But friend B probably be very upset with friend A because he took money from him. Well, really, and he'd be upset and angry about it, and because the fear, the loss, he basically lost that money that he had, and in his eyes, he lost that money. He'd probably be upset, and he'd probably say, well, you just gave it just to take it away, or how many times have you heard that saying? Or an Indian giver or something like that. They make up all these things and they're upset, They're like, well, you shouldn't have gave me to you. If you was going, just take it back, And he was upset. And now if you really think about it, sit back and look at it logically. You had $10, I gave you 20, and then you had 30, and then you have 10 when I took it back. So essentially, financially, you're not any worse. But you probably feel a lot worse. You probably feel worse than when you didn't have it. And that's how the stock market works. So you have it, then you lose it, and it's a lot stronger of a feeling. And that's why financial markets, they go down a lot faster, because people get scared and they're like, oh my God, I'm not going to lose all my money. I need to get out. So fear is a lot stronger. So essentially, and that's why financial markets, it takes a time for them to kind of go up, because people have to regain their confidence. They have to, and they always think, oh man, I lost a lot of money last time, and they slowly regain confidence, and they slowly regain it over maybe a couple years or maybe a couple months. If they're depends on how much they lost. If someone lost half their money, they probably be kind of slow to trust the markets again. And that's why the stock market goes up slower and it goes down a lot faster, because people, they start losing money and they freak out, and that's why it goes down a lot faster. So essentially it's just, and that's how fear gets in the market, and that's why I believe, and they do a lot of dumb things, and go back to the Dow hitting all-time highs. In my opinion about all-time highs is, I never sell a stock or anything just because it hit an all-time high. I think that's the dumbest thing you can possibly do. Because essentially you want it's like the old saying, Peter Lynch said it in his book. He was a mutual fund manager and had great returns. You can look him up. He basically said, cut the weeds and water the flowers. So essentially what he means by that is add to your winners and get rid of your losers. So essentially, let's say it's stocked up, or I would call that a winner. So you sell that, you do exactly the opposite of what he says. So essentially, that's really, it does the exact opposite. And that's why your emotions, because your emotions saying, man, I need to take that money. You kind of get scared and you're like, hey, I don't want to lose that money. I have it now. I could take the money and run. And that's what they all say, and all do this. But really, really what you really should do, if a company, you got a good company that's going up a lot and has great earnings, and it's justifiable. Once again, it's justifiable, and it's doing well. It has great numbers and great management, has a great niche that it's in. It's changing, it's disrupting industry. It's basically like Netflix or so, or just a really, really good company. You should not sell that company at all. Just because it hit a new all-time high. Think about it. Netflix was $3 a share, now it's up to almost 400. So essentially, an all-time high was 100. It used to, a long time ago, or a couple, I don't know exactly when it hit 100. Could you imagine selling that stock at 100 just because it hit an all-time high and you were scared you would lose your money? And I'm not saying never sell a company. There's a time to sell it, but I'm not going to get really into when to sell it. I mean, there's a lot of other reasons and stuff to sell it, but I definitely don't want to sell it just because it went up. And I think that's very foolish to do. So that's why I like to hold on to them. And if it goes up quite a bit, normally I add to it. I normally do the exact opposite of what everybody really tells you to do. Everybody tells you to take the money and run with it. You don't do that. You add to you just keep adding to your winners, and over time, the company might go down, and it might go down maybe 10%. Because people profit take. A lot of people profit take. They take their money and run with it, and then the stock goes down. And normally that's when I get in, and it goes right back up, and it hits a new all-time high. And then people that sold it, they kick themselves because they should have hold on to it. And really, that's why the number one rule in investing is, if you want to be successful in investing, you don't look at the stock price. You don't really pay attention to it. You pay attention to the business and what it does, and you will do very well if you just do that. If you just pick good companies and don't really care about what the stock price does all the time, and I'm not saying don't evaluate it. I mean, use some little bit of valuation and use some sense. I mean, you don't want to be paying a company that's making only $1 million and pay $100 billion for it. Just use some sense. But if you pick a good company, eventually over the long term, the market will recognize it, and it will go up in value. So essentially, but anyway, that's my opinion about the Dow Jones hitting new all-time highs, and that's really how the financial market works, and that's how really fear and greed kind of controls it. So essentially, and I don't think everybody tells you that emotions are a big part, but they don't really tell you how it really works. They just kind of say, don't let your emotions get in control, what I mean? But really, what does that really mean, And that hopefully I explained it. You can leave down the comments if I didn't explain it enough. It's very complicated, and the best thing to do is just kind of get into the market and just kind of, you can learn slowly, and that's the best way to really get into it and learn it and get kind of the feel for it. But anyway, that's all I have to say today, and I hope it was helpful. And thank you.